Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. It's time for another episode of Treknicity Live. I'm your host, Lars de Scenza, coming to you from somewhere beyond the cosmos, or maybe somewhere near Los Angeles. You take your pick. This is the show where basically I talk about whatever I want to talk about Star Trek, because no Trek topic is taboo. And in this episode, I admittedly gave it a little bit of a sensationalist title. Star Trek sucks? Well, some of it does. Believe it or not, some of it does. But we'll talk more about that here coming up. I'm bringing this show to you here on the Red Shirt Geeks channel, and just want to sort of start off by saying, if you like me doing these, if you like what we do here with the Red Shirt Geeks, please hit the like and subscribe down there, and then hit the little notification icon so you know that when we go live or when we have a video that goes up. And yeah, it kind of gives us an indication that what we're doing is pretty good. So let's get right to it. In my last couple of episodes, I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit about how much I like the different series, the movies, and how much I disliked the Abrams verse or the Kelvin timeline movies, or the reboot, whatever we want to call it. And with that being said, I want to be kind of a little forthcoming about, and sort of dig a little bit deeper with the and the whole thing is with these movies, the reboot movies. I don't particularly hate them, like really hate them, except for maybe Star Trek Into Darkness, because that was just a horrible movie. Even I had trouble trying to explain to my creative partner, my hetero life mate Patrick today, how or why there was some actual logic to it. So that being said, when it comes down to it, I love what Star Trek represents. I've always loved what it represented, and it wasn't just because it was Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, how we could get past our differences and move beyond the material trappings of our society, whether it be Western or otherwise. I loved it because it made me feel like I belonged. Growing up, of course, you probably hear this story 1,000 times from 1,000 nerds, that they weren't popular when they were young. They were bullied, they were beaten up, they were ostracized, however you want to look at it. And quite frankly, I don't know, I was just like that. And Star Trek gave me a way to feel like I was somebody real, and that I should be respected and understood, or at least left alone to enjoy my life. But that being said, Star Trek is a series or a franchise where you have all these different views of how people interpreted Gene Roddenberry's vision. So we had the original series, which of course Gene was in the thick of, because that was the original. And you saw a lot of social topics attacked and covered, and it was just, there was no question or doubt as to what those visions, those messages were about how we were as a society at the time. Now, some people just don't like it. They just think it's a cheesy, it was a cheesy 60s series where it had a lot of cardboard sets and so on and so forth. With that being said, it was a different time. There was a lot of social upheaval, especially in the 60s. So, of course, the messages rammed home pretty deep, and a lot of people loved it. It shaped how some people lived their lives. They felt like they could be understood, and that they understood some of the issues that were going on in life. So, okay, fast forward, we move into the 80s, where we have Star Trek The Next Generation. And again, even though the first couple of seasons were kind of meh, even Patrick Stewart didn't unpack his suitcase, he said, for the first two seasons. that being said, they still went on and tackled all these things, these messages, these social upheaval, ideals, challenges, whatever you want to say. And it was a good timing because it was entertaining and it was educational. You know, it was kind of flying in the face of what people were sort of, you know, were facing in their lives. I mean, it was insane. That being said, okay, I know I'm kind of getting a little off topic here, so I'm going to bring myself right back, you know, because I threw it right out there and said Star Trek sucks. Well, in a way it does, because there has been so many interpretations of Gene Roddenberry's vision, and, you know, some of them have panned out really good, and some of them not so much. You know, I don't think that they were terrible. I just think they missed the mark. So when you talk about it, there is this understanding that, sure, you know, I mean, he wasn't involved after TNG for the most part. You know, DS9 and Voyager came in, and the Enterprise came in, and they were all trying to tell their own different stories, or at least their own different perspectives of the greater story. You know, they were kind of trying to fill in the blanks a little bit, or go off in another direction that we hadn't thought about, which, again, was kind of cool. But I think it muddied the waters a little bit. I think we ended up seeing, you know, the overall message get blurred along the way, you know, and it was all in the attempt to be entertaining. People wanted to be gritty, they wanted to be dark, they wanted to be edgy, because Star Trek was like, the future is great. The future is great because there's no, you know, there's hardly any war, there's hardly any disease, or at least the diseases that we know now are completely gone. You know, hunger, you know, material want, all that stuff has virtually been eradicated. So of course the future is much better than we understood it to be at the time. That being said, you know, yes, there were some great entertaining series, episodes, stories, whatever, but it just, from my taste, it just strayed too far from the story of what Gene was trying to tell. So when you come into after Enterprise finished up, we ended up thinking we having Star Trek Nemesis, which admittedly just about buried the franchise forever. That being said, though, you know, we did get an opportunity to come back in 2009. J.J. Abrams stepped up to the plate, decided, let's revitalize the franchise. Let's bring in some new actors to play the classic TOS characters: Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Chekhov, Sulu, Uhura, you know, all that, Scotty, and it was, you know, initially I was like, really skeptical. I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry, man, come on. These guys have been doing this job for 40 plus years at this point. You know, come on, stop. Who are you kidding? But I went and saw the movie, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is this is way better than I thought. And then as I mentioned in my last episode, they started toying with things. They had tinkered with elements of Star Trek that I just really felt like they didn't need to. They really did not need to mess with some of the pre-established canon items from the Prime universe. You know, I still think that they could have told a fantastic story and gone in a new direction, because, of course, it was meant to, again, revitalize the franchise. It was meant to bring in a whole new class of Star Trek fan, particularly one who wasn't already a Star Trek fan. It wasn't so much they were thumbing their nose at the hardcore Trekkies and Trekkers. It was more that they were trying to bring in more people who thought, you know, Star Trek, oh, it's only for nerds. This is not a movie or a franchise to watch. I don't want that. Well, you know, they wanted to bring those people in. Why do they want to bring them in? Because it's more money. You know? I mean, yes, making a movie is about telling a story and being entertaining, but it's also about making money. That being said, I just really feel like they just took the franchise and they grabbed it by the collar and they just ran it through the mud. You know, they beat it, they bruised it up, they just left it lying whimpering at the the first movie came out, and look, there are a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of hardcore fans, like myself, who actually really like the Kelvin universe movies. They are big fans of Star Trek, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond. And that's fine. I mean, look, you can like whatever you like. I just really think that they just did the franchise a disservice by telling this type of stories that they did. The first one was like, well, we have to establish it because we're kind of rebooting the whole universe and splintering off in a different direction with the Kelvin timeline. All right, all right. And they kind of, they gave us a happy little pat on the head when they brought Leonard Nimoy in as Prime Universe Spock. And of course you're like, oh yeah, great, okay, thanks a lot. That was cool. But for the most part, it was just like like here, just take it and just shut up. Like, no, you don't insult us like this, okay? I remember having a conversation once with Andy Probert. For those of you who are not familiar with Mr. Probert's work, he has been involved in design and production of some of the most iconic movies and TV series throughout the 80s and 90s, including, I learned of his work primarily through Star Trek The Next Generation because he was responsible for designing the Enterprise D, the Ferengi Marauder, the Romulan Warbird, which is my personal favorite, and many, many other things, okay? The little shuttles, you name it, he had his hand in it, including work in more classic Star Trek fare like the refit Enterprise class and so on and so forth. But I remember having a conversation with him once and getting the sensation in no uncertain terms that he really did not like these movies. And it wasn't because he wasn't a fan of Star Trek. It was because he felt, like I feel, they just took stories or they took things to use in a story that just smacked some of us in the face. And if that sounds a little kind of prima donna or sort of mamby-pamby, wah, don't mess with my Star Trek type of deal. Okay, look, everybody's got their things that they are most passionate about. For me, Star Trek, the original, TNG, Voyager, DS9, at least as far as how they an Enterprise and how they approached those stories. Okay, how they approached the vision. They may not have, in later franchises, I feel like they may not have hit the nail on the head squarely, but they did do a much better job. Which is, of course, I'm really excited about how they're going to bring Patrick Stewart back as Captain Picard. But going back, Andy and I were talking over dinner, and it was just like, no, this is not Star Trek. It's not this. It's not in the spirit of what Star Trek was founded on, and it never will. And you're probably going to never change his mind. You're probably never going to change my mind. I will say that I did enjoy Star Trek Beyond. Out of the 3 Kelvin timeline movies that came out, that was my favorite. And I thought they really went for, if they were really trying to sell the action story to a new class of fans, they did a lot better job of it in that movie. Star Trek Into Darkness. Oh my God, don't get me started. And I could probably go on for much, much longer about that whole movie. I won't even tell you at this point what Patrick and I refer to that movie as, but suffice to say, we often refer to that there is no 12th Star Trek movie. And the way it was played out, the whole thing was just felt like they took the best elements of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, put it in a blender, zipped it up and poured it out as this crap smoothie. And I thought, no, I'm sorry, no, I will not willingly watch that movie again. I will not open it up and say, okay, I'm going to watch this movie because I really enjoyed it. No. So, so I still say that I say that my statement stands to some degree. Okay, I do love Star Trek. I will always love Star Trek. The mere fact that I'm doing a Star Trek based show is actually a sign that I'm getting my Trek mojo and groove back. So that being said, I know that I'm getting there, and I don't hate it, but you know, I really can't fathom why they would do what they did with with the movies. But with any luck, I hate to say this, with any luck, there will not be a fourth Kelvin timeline movie. With Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth stepping away for monetary reasons. You never know. They might turn around and come back and say, "No, we'll do it," and they'll figure it out, and then there'll be a fourth movie, and I'll cry. But that being said, okay, Star Trek is very personal to a lot of people, myself being included. Sometimes we're gonna get butthurt over it. We're gonna get, we're gonna throw our hands in the air. We're gonna flip a table. We're gonna get angry. And that being said, it's just gonna happen. There's nothing we can do about it. However, I do love Star Trek, and I will continue doing this show as often as I can. Again, I'm working on doing a more produced, longer episode of Treknicity, where I will review episodes and things of that nature. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm 3 episodes in, and I'm really enjoying doing this live version because it's really making me stand out there and just get off my, sort of get out of my little hole, my little hidey hole, and say, "Oh God, I got to do this." I'm under pressure. I have to perform, and it makes me feel more comfortable in my own skin in front of a camera. So that being said, again, I will continue doing these episodes. I have plans to be back tomorrow night with another episode of Treknicity Live. So I'm going to wrap it up here. But again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't offend too many people, but look, it's bound to happen. At the end of the day, it's just, you can't please everybody. So I will see you next. I'll see you in the next episode. Again, this is on the Red Shirt Geeks channel. So if you like this, please share the episode. Please click the like and subscribe down there below. Hit the little notification so that you know when things are happening. And we will do our best to get out content to you as much as possible. That being said, thank you very much, everybody. Rock out with your Spock out. I'm Lars. See ya, folks.